Hello EFD squad and welcome back to the Euro Roundup where you send in your best and worst from the game week just past. But before we delve into some Serie A football, some serious football, a transfer rumour that's breaking this morning, taken fresh from Fabrizio Romano's feed. It's about Mauro Icardi edging closer to a deal at PSG. So Inter ready to extend his contract apparently by 1 year. And then they're going to loan the Argentinian striker to PSG with an option to buy for 70 million euros. A couple of questions spring to mind straight away. Isn't there already enough problematic players at PSG? Does he kind of fit a Tuchel system? And is it a decent price?
Yes, there are enough problem players at PSG already, so it is a bit worrying from that point of view. But on the other hand, Icardi has always been the main man at Inter, and at PSG that might be, tamped down a little bit by the fact that Neymar's bigger than him, Mbappe's bigger than him, Verratti, Thiago
humble
Silva.
and being surrounded by those names.
Yeah, and he may just need a new start, really. Like, he's obviously a fantastic player. Like, generally speaking, to have a forward come to you on loan who's in his prime has always been an incredibly reliable goal scorer, a very similar rate to someone like Harry Kane, for example. And you've got a 70 million euro option to buy. That's amazing. The only variable is his attitude. For Inter, I think it makes total sense. I don't know how much money they'll be getting for the loan fee, but getting his wages off the books will be good because he's got a big salary, and obviously they've got to cover some of Sanchez's salary. They've got to pay for Lukaku.
Sure.
But their forward complement looks pretty great at the moment anyway, with Sanchez, Lukaku and Lautaro Martinez. So, I don't know, I think this kind of works out for everyone. And I'm intrigued to see how Wandanara can perform on a bigger stage. I really want to know what she's like in Paris, because I think it could be absolute mayhem.
Well, I mean, this kind of brings an end to the discussion of Kylian Mbappe playing through the centre, if it does happen, right? Because Mauro Icardi can, exclusively plays as a penalty box poacher. So he'd be, replacing Cavani? As Cavani, rumours of him going to MLS, but that's next year.
He's injured at the moment, though, and so is Mbappe, right? So it makes sense just as cover, because if it's just a loan, you can always...
A £70 million cover signing?
But you're not paying 70 mil, you're just loaning him. You don't have to pay the 70 mil, it's an option for next season, so they can loan him and send him back. It's not an issue. So I don't think that necessarily is a problem. And also, Tuchel has played a 2 in the past. I still think Mbappe is going to play through the middle and play pretty much wherever he wants. But they're going to need sometimes to rest him for Champions League games, and they'll be able to do that. They can, of course, play him wide if they want to do that as well. So, I mean, they've got a lot of solutions now in forward areas, which is really what you want.
But it doesn't feel like the sort of profile of player that he's been kind of striving to bring in, which is, slightly younger, slightly lower profile, slightly more kind of flexible, I guess. But if you can get a Cardiff for 7 mil, I suppose you just get him.
This feels like something that Bayern could maybe have thought about doing. Like Bayern, just bringing a guy in who could play in as 2, which actually is something that Kovac has done in the past, and who can back up Lewandowski if he gets injured, would not have been a stupid thing to do. Because again, I think at Bayern, maybe his attitude issues would be sorted out a little bit by the stature of the club. So, I don't know. I think this feels like a real steal for PSG, and if it doesn't work out, they've kind of lost nothing doing it.
Yeah, decent. Yeah, opportunism. Go for it. Why not? Okay, let's move into the first game then, and our first winner. In fact, this was sent in by Alan Hayden VB, and it is Juventus who just about managed to edge the partner pay.
Yeah, 100% start to the season continues for Juve, who sealed a 4-3 victory over Napoli with a 92nd minute Kalidou Koulibaly own goal. It was brutal because the old lady were 3-0 up and coasting after about an hour. Danilo, Higuain and Ronaldo had all scored. Higuain, by the way, is on the form that he used to have under Sarri at Napoli. Absolutely obscene. But anyway, then it really fell apart in the last half hour, conceded 3 goals in 15 minutes. Did you see De Lig's defending for the Lozano goal? I've heard it's bad.
He's been getting some jip, and kind of rightly so in this instance. Does not check over his shoulder once. He's kind of ball watching. Lozano can't believe the space he's got between the centre-backs. Great to see Lozano scoring his debut there.
Sure, well, I mean, they're going to have to hope that De Ligt finds his form pretty quickly, because the reason he came into the team so soon was because Chiellini, 35-year-old captain, obviously out with an ACL injury in training and is going to have surgery at some point. So not only could that be the end of his season, it could be the end of his career.
It'll be a sad end if that's the case.
I would not be surprised. Higuain, by the way, fantastic goal. Let's just have a look at his numbers. 1 shot per game, not incredible, but 2.3 key passes, 1.7 dribbles, and obviously got a goal in this game. Expected goals and assists per 90, 0.81. That's up from 0.56 during his time at Chelsea. And it's actually way ahead of Ronaldo presently.
It's pretty surprising that his Chelsea haul was as good as 0.56.
Yeah, though, I mean, if you're the sole centre forward in a system that creates chances, which Sarri's system always is going to, you're going to get some chances. But it's really interesting to see him be so selfless. You'd expect him to have to be with Ronaldo there. But obviously creating a ton and has just been sensational. I'm kind of glad for him because it seems like Sarri is just like the Higuain whisperer. Anyway, he will be a little bit worried, though, Sarri, that his side conceded 15 shots with 7 on target, while they had 12 with 7 on target too. Though XG put them out ahead 2 to 1.4, that does feel like a risky way to play games and not the way Juve have done it consistently in the past. But anyway, got the win under their belt in one of their toughest games of the season.
Yeah, the hierarchy asked for a style change. He was certainly
get
exacting that here.
Yeah.
And Ancelotti, his eyebrow will be in overdrive at defensive issues of his own. So they've conceded 7 goals as well as scoring 7 in their first 2 games. That's the first time a club has done that since 1931, which coincidentally was also Napoli. So at the moment, they're conceding around 16 shots a game, which, just to give you some perspective, would probably put you in the bottom 5 of any of the top 5 divisions in terms of shots conceded. There's a general rule of thumb, right, that kind of makes you a relegation candidate over 16.
If you consider, if you allow kind of 15, 16 shots plus per game, this is in the days before expected goals, you were considered a relegation danger.
Well, it doesn't compare very favourably to 11.4, which was their record in 18-19, which was actually the 3rd best record behind Inter and Atalanta. And given they've spent so much money on their defence in the form of Manolas, not a great return as of yet, but might be doing the back 4 a bit of an injustice there. I don't know how well they're being covered in midfield. Now, despite being pretty unlucky, expected goals does actually dictate they've conceded 3 more than they should have. The metrics still believes they've kind of got the 6th worst, somewhere in that region, defence in Serie A, so they do need to brush up at the back. But Carlo Ancelotti, at least from an attacking sense, will be delighted with his new signings. Manolas starting that comeback, and then Lozano getting in between the 2 centre-halves that we noted earlier, and Di Lorenzo, their €8 million signing from Empoli, getting the 3rd. He was particularly impressive in this game. 3 tackles and interceptions, 3 aerial duels won, 88% pass accuracy, 1 key pass, 1 shot and 1 goal, so very decisive. Man of the match, though, has to be Douglas Costa, the 28-year-old, 3 key passes, 2 shots and 2 assists. Next up for Juventus is Fiorentina away before Atletico Madrid in the UCL. Now, what do you make of that little tie? Can we get a score prediction from you? Of course, Juventus and Atletico quite similar last season, but stylistically very different this time round.
No.
Do you think we're going to have an entertaining fixture? Just no. Just no's all round. Let's move on to our first loser.
Our first losers of the week are Borussia Dortmund. This comes from @BopMossy. They were stunned by Union Berlin as the hosts claimed their first ever Bundesliga victory with a 3-1 win. Actually, Union are the 5th team from Berlin to play in the Bundesliga. They got promoted via the playoffs last season and took the lead in the 22nd minute through Marius Bulter's tidy finish. Now, Dortmund came back very quickly. Jadon Sancho got yet another assist for Paco Alcácer to tap in the equaliser. In fact, since 18-19, those 2 players have combined for 6 goals, which is more than any other combination of players in the top flight in Germany. But in the second half, which is a bit worrying against a promoted side, they really fell away. Bulter got a second. Sebastian Andersson wrapped it up with 15 minutes left on the clock. And it's kind of a feel-good story for everyone except for Borussia Dortmund fans. Bulter, the 26-year-old, was playing in the Zweiten Bundesliga last season with FC Magdeburg. They got relegated, went down to the 3rd tier. It was actually the first year he'd played that high, had previously only been in the 4th tier of the German system. Has now gone on loan to Union and has got 2 goals for them against Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga.
Jamie Vardy, eat your heart out.
Absolutely
what a story.
Amazing. In fact, they're pretty solid generally, Union Berlin, at home anyway. They've lost only 2 of 20 home games under manager Urs Fischer. And for much of the game, they were able to completely contain a Borussia Dortmund side, which has ripped through every defence in the Bundesliga at some point or another. Marco Reus, disgusted with the performance afterwards, called the defeat completely stupid and said his side was sloppy in the final third. But let's give Union a little bit of credit. A good story for them.
Yeah, puzzling. I mean, Dortmund had 74% of the ball in this game, but did relatively little with it. I mean, Union had 15 shots with 7 on target. In comparison to Dortmund's 13, putting just 2 on target. Actually had the game at 1.1 to 1.6 in Dortmund's favour, despite Union edging them on shots, obviously generating higher quality opportunities, which is always going to happen with players like Jadon Sancho, little infiltrators. However, the visitors were extremely wasteful in this game. New signing Julian Brandt didn't have his best game. I mean, that's to put it mildly. He only had a pass accuracy of 65%. That was the lowest in the side. And he didn't manage a single shot in the match. Sancho, though, I mean, his form just continues to be bloody imperious. So 3 key passes, an assist, 5 dribbles, 9 touches in the opposition's box, all game highs. As for Union, Anderson was particularly good. Don't know an awful lot about him, but the Swedish striker had 5 shots in this game, 3 on target, and also completed 3 dribbles. So causing Dortmund all sorts of issues. And the defeat was made even worse for Dortmund by the fact that Bayern smashed Mainz 6-1 on Saturday. A huge weekend of football in the Bundesliga after the international break, with RB Leipzig playing Bayern, while Dortmund host Leverkusen. That'll be a tasty game week. Get your score predictions in the comments below. Let's move on to our final winner. Rounding off proceedings then for the W's is Atletico Madrid, and this comes from Louis CMS 31, striking while others falter.
Yeah, though it was not easy for them. They've had a perfect start to the season, but this was not a perfect performance. They had to come back from 2-0 down to win 3-2 against Eibar. It's the first time they've made such a comeback in La Liga since May 2009, and it's also the first time they've been standalone table toppers since they won the league at the Camp Nou back in 2014. Now, they were 2 down after 20 minutes, the first time they've allowed 2 in under 20 minutes at home under Simeone. Not a surprising little factoid there. With 35-year-old Charles scoring the first and 32-year-old fullback Arbia getting the second. Now, fortunately, João Felix was able to tap one back in, and then some great substitutions from Simeone. He brought on Vitolo and Thomas Partey in the second half, and they both got on the score sheet to get them the 3 points. Overall, pretty much the same as all of Atleti's other games. There were 13 total shots in this match between the two sides. Atleti had 7, Eibar had 6. Atleti had 3 on target, Eibar had 2. Atleti had 57% possession. It's really, really boring. Basically, if you look at Atleti's shot map at the moment, all their shots are unbelievably good. They're really, really close in. They're really big chances, which is how they had 1.8 expected goals in this game from 7 shots. But at some point, you do worry a little bit when they come up against better defensive. Neither keeper managed a single save, so that's a good one. And Diego Costa, bit of a mixed day for him. Managed 1 shot, which he put high and wide from just outside the 6-yard box. But he was a real problem all day long. Won 7 aerial duels, completed 3 out of 3 dribbles, and got a key pass, which was the assist for Felix's goal. So overall, things are going well for Atleti, but I do think there are some warning signs there.
I'm just glad we got some goals in this game.
Sure.
These are 2 of the meanest defences from the prior campaign. So, I was expecting minus goals, to be perfectly frank. Morata is going to be a big miss. He's out with a knee injury. We talk about kind of Diego Costa maybe struggling a little bit in front of goal. Felix kind of carrying some of that creative burden. No one had overshot in this game, of course, which is problematic in Griezmann's absence.
It's not great.
And even though, like you said, the performance wasn't perfect, neither has been the form of their biggest rivals. So Los Rojiblancos really capitalising on Real Madrid and Barcelona as their stuttering starts too. So Barca only have 4 points. They've won 1, drawn 1, lost 1. It's their worst start to a season since 08-09 under Pep Guardiola. But things kind of fared pretty well after that, didn't they? Real only have 5 points after drawing in their last 2 games as well. So very early doors to draw any sort of conclusions. We said last season might have been Atleti's time to strike. Maybe they're being given another bite of the cherry this time round. However, Real Madrid and Barcelona both have a large amount of influential players out, don't they?
Yeah,
So it
but
might
how
be a
long are
little
they
bit
out
misleading in that sense. I think
If
the
they're out for a
earliest
while.
return, the earliest return for Real Madrid is what, mid-September. James Rodriguez.
Yeah, so you can look at them and say, okay, well, I see how those sides are going to be good once those guys come back. But if they've dropped enough points, it won't really matter. Like if Atleti can put up in the high 80s points-wise, then it only takes another 3 or 4 weeks of this stuff for those sides to maybe not be able to catch them.
Yeah, maybe if they're blowing sides away at the start of the season, we might be a little bit more bullish with our predictions. But they are, like Pat said, just kind of edging past teams at the moment. But it makes a fascinating start to the La Liga season. Guys, give us your top 4 in the comments below. Let's move on to our final loser. This is a legitimate handle now for our final loser.
No, it isn't.
Glasgow Celtic 89.
You've made it up.
It is. Go and
It
delve onto my Twitter feed. I promise you. And he suggested, well, Celtic as a winner, but we've put Rangers in as a loser instead. True that. So Rangers tasting defeat for the first time in 12 games as Celtic ran out 2-0 victors at Ibrox, put some 3 points to the good on their Glasgow rivals at the summit of the SPFL. Of course, you knew that already.
I knew all about that.
Now, Celtic have dominated these derbies in recent times, but they've actually lost the last 2 games at Ibrox as the quality gap has kind of narrowed under Steven Gerrard. Of course, Brendan Rodgers was a better manager than Neil Lennon. Celtic have sold big players, and thus they've kind of helped Rangers, get a little bit closer to them. But Edouard, while he's on the pitch, mate, the scourge of Rangers, they don't stand a chance to. That's his 5th goal in 7 games against Rangers. He's also got 2 assists, and it secured Celtic's 5th consecutive victory on the bounce. So no sign of a European hangover there. Now, you did, in fact, watch some of the game, because this was the early kickoff on Sunday.
Sure.
Why are you saying game in inverted commas?
Because it's not, is it?
Can't you just be kind?
Games are meant to be fun.
This was quite, it was quite low on quality.
Yes.
More so than in recent memory, because it was a little bit more evenly contested. I was actually, unlike a lot of Celtic fans, not best pleased with the performance of our midfield. There wasn't a lot of control exerted in the middle of the park. I think defensively did extremely well, contained them to, 2 shots on target. I think Celtic had 6 or 7 despite not having the lion's share of possession. Any sort of standout performances for you while you're watching? Christopher Julian, you didn't note how handsome he was.
I did note how handsome he was. He is handsome. I don't really remember his defending. I'm sure it was passable for Scotland. I thought Aribo was pretty good. Aribo's pretty press resistant, and you hope that he can be for Rangers what Nchama has been for Celtic. Like that guy who can perform a variety of roles in the middle of the park. That he was pushing up a lot. Actually, he was really quite advanced in that game. To be honest, I think quite often when people talk about like the draw of ex-manager at ex-club, often that's not really, I don't really believe in it. But I think in the case of Steven Gerrard at Rangers, it obviously does have an effect, because there would be no reason for Aribo to go to Rangers over, say, Celtic, except that Steven Gerrard's there, I think. And similarly, he's obviously got a bunch of Liverpool, former Liverpool Academy guys. So, I don't know. I never really feared for Celtic. Like, when I started watching, they were already 1-0 up, and I never really feared for them. I didn't think Rangers really produced much of anything. And then the breakaway goal, I can't say it was coming, but it's not that surprising that it came, just because of the amount of, the number of players that Rangers were committing.
Yeah. We actually started to put together some decent moves, kind of epitomised by that second goal. When Ncham came on the pitch, he actually provided, a little bit more consideration with his passing. It was very direct up until then, and we actually started to put some decent combinations together, and there's one incident where he did a filthy little kind of drag back
in the middle of the park,
and absolutely sold his man. Talking of filthy, did you see that little run from Scott Brown as well?
Oh, where he twinkled,
rolling back the years,
and then just the ball just taken off him.
Yeah,
he got tackled. It was actually it was something Scott Brown would probably appreciate. Somebody going on a little mazy run through midfield, and then they just get absolutely clotheslined. I think that Scott Brown should be the guy doing that.
Fizzling out to nothing ultimately, and leaving our kind of most defensively adept midfielder, in their final third, which wasn't great. There was some decent.
What was
going on
during the whole period where you had one of your centre backs who got injured by the by the other team's corner flag, right? So right up by the corner flag, miles away from where he should be. He's clearly injured. He's waving to the touchline. He comes back on. Rangers have the ball. They're obviously not going to put it out because they don't care. But then Celtic win the ball back and carry on playing. Yeah. And I was like, guys, it's not that. Just knock it out. But Bolly was like, nah, let's go on a tear. Yeah. And that was, you said that guy was a midfielder playing centre back. I'm not going to learn his name.
Yeah, near Baton. And he's done his hamstring again, unfortunately, and that's been a recurrent issue for him. He's kind of deputised at centre-half, and then we had the new right-back at centre-half. So Christopher Julian, because I was injured or an injury concern, didn't actually have another kind of, defensive partner who specialised in the heart of defence. So that's how well that he played. Bolly, that's maybe a bit unfair on Twitter when I said that his positioning was hilarious. I just meant that he just wants to attack. You can just see the attacking intent on him at all times. He just wants to break down that left. He tries to win the ball back quite high up. Defensively, he was okay. A couple of suspect clearances. Maybe his positioning, allowed them to play the ball over the top a few times. But I think there's a good raw product there. So yeah, I'm not going to be too critical of him. And that probably rounds off the show. Let's just go straight into recommending what people should watch next.
Don't we need to do Star of the Week?
We do need to do Star of the Week. That's a section I've just completely forgot about.
Cut back in. Yes, the Star of the Week comes from @Boggle_93. It might be 2 underscores run together. Can't really tell. Anyway, Big Timo Werner got his first Bundesliga hat-trick as RB Leipzig beat Borussia Mönchengladbach for a 3rd straight win, putting him at the top of the league. And though I haven't put money on them winning the league, I think I might do it today.
They were 20-1, right? That's what was
20-1. Those are such good odds. I genuinely would not be surprised. I think they'll be better than Dortmund this season. Bang. Now, the game was pretty much done early on in the second half. Timo Werner got one either side of the break, and then Brela and Bolo gave Mönchengladbach hope. It was pretty quickly extinguished. Werner killed the game off in injury time, but they were overall incredibly dominant. Signed a new contract, of course, last week. Maybe that's calmed him down a little bit, and has scored in all 3 of their opening games. Had 4 shots, 3 on target, 4 key passes, 3 dribbles. Genuinely speaking, like Leipzig under Nagelsmann have immediately joined the ranks of clubs like Atalanta and Lille, and probably Sevilla under Lopetegui actually as one of the most entertaining sides in Europe.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely was Weetabix that morning, didn't he? And it was a good job. He was pretty decisive because the game was pretty evenly matched in terms of shots on target. So 6-3. Ibrahim Konate, let's go back to the defence now. Quite the segue there. Was also a key figure in Leipzig's victory. 20-year-old centre-back completed 4 tackles and interceptions, 8 clearances, which feels high, and had an 89% pass accuracy, the highest in their back 4. I mean, he's looked composed for quite some time, hasn't he? So those numbers do not surprise me. Nagelmann, like you said, will be delighted with the start that Leipzig have made to the season and the way they've kind of adjusted to his ways pretty seamlessly. Not only are they free scoring with 8 goals in just 3 games, defensively look pretty solid as well. Only conceded 2 at the start of this campaign. Next up will be his toughest test as boss yet, with Bayern playing them, like we mentioned earlier.
Bayern coming to them though. So, I don't know. I kind of like. If they win that, they will be extremely emboldened. They'll win the league.
If you're Kovac, you're scared of Nagelsmann.
Yeah, because I'd be like, I'm Niko Kovac, I'm very handsome, but I'm actually not a very good manager.
Well, he is good.
Nagelsmann, not very handsome, but a very good manager. So
maybe there's
and younger, so
maybe there's a correlation there.
There you go.
Have we finished the show now?
God only gives with one hand, is what I'm saying. That's why Christopher Julian is probably not a good football player.
The Lord giveth, but my God, those cheekbones. Anyway, shall we now recommend shows to watch if people made it through that section? God, if they're here.
Oh, do I have to do it?
Yeah, please.
Oh, check out Stat Wars. It's always on, isn't it? Like, there's always
twice a week, baby.
There's always an episode of Stat Wars. Actually, I'm filming an episode with Joe this week, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. And obviously, as well, check out the podcast. The podcast will return this weekend, but The Game's Gone Mad is currently available to download, so please listen to that for an alternative take on football news.
Yeah, well done.
Cheers.